Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Pyromancer here. And I have had the tinfoil hat on for too long, you guys. I am about to propose to you an idea probably unlike anything you've ever heard before. I try to pride myself on thinking outside of the box, and I think I might have uncovered something in the Warcraft universe that wasn't meant to be uncovered yet. I'm gonna ask you a question. What are old gods? Feel free to think about it for a bit. Think about what old gods embody. What are they always talking about? While you think about that, let's talk about Dreadlords. There is a lot that we know about Dreadlords. Ian, on a side note, told us that Legion's storyline still has some finishing up to do after the events of Antorus. We're finding that out pretty clearly now. However, he never really elaborates on what that means. When Sargeras is defeated, the forces of the Burning Legion have likely given up. Or so you would think. After Sargeras' defeat, Lothraxion, the only known light-infused Dreadlord, is supposed to reveal to us a very ominous message, but he doesn't, because it's been removed from the game. This is what his quote was supposed to say. When the High Exarch ordered me to Azeroth, I was reluctant to leave his side. I felt someone else would be better suited to the task. Now, though, I understand why he did it. He wanted to give me a glimpse of what he and Lady Illyria had been fighting for. Our war may never be over. Our war may be over, but many battles lie ahead. Just because the Legion is defeated doesn't mean every demon in existence has surrendered. Not yet, at least. It's interesting because after the defeat of Argus within the Burning Throne, within Antorus, the seat of the Pantheon, you come back to the ship where you get your loot, and every single NPC standing around the loot box, Illyria, Turalyon, Eretor, Verisa, Velen, and Khadgar, all have unique dialogue structured very similarly to how Lothraxion's is structured. But Lothraxion is the only one that doesn't have dialogue anymore. However, I found on Wowpedia this particular quote. Seems to be missing from the game, but why? Why? Why would they get rid of it? To cover the trail? To not give too much away? I don't know, but the quote remains on WoW. It's www.gamepedia.com/Lothraxion. Now, since I know you all love to hear about Pyromancer, we need to go back to him. And I know that this is getting tired, but you need to hear this. Pyromancer was a Dreadlord in the service of the Burning Legion. He was forced into allying with the Forsaken under the direct control of Sylvanas Windrunner, in exchange for sparing his life after he and his brothers were overcome by her undead forces. Though he swore allegiance to Sylvanas, Pyromancer remained loyal to the Legion and eventually staged a coup for the control of the Undercity. In Antorus the Burning Throne, Pyromancer foreshadows the idea that the Alliance will be betrayed from within and our holy places will burn. He lets the Alliance players know that they are blind to the darkness closing in around them. Pyromancer also speaks to Horde players, as you know, revealing that he is aware of Sylvanas' ascension to War Chief. He is also seemingly aware that Vol'jin has passed the throne willingly to Sylvanas. The Horde is allegedly blind to the darkness in their midst. Pyromancer should not really be aware of the passing of War Chief to Sylvanas, nor that Vol'jin passed it to her, and why it was done in that manner. This is strange, as it seems to indicate he has the ability of foresight, something that Dreadlords are not known to possess. There are, however, quite a lot of things we do know about the Nathrezim, or Dreadlords. They all use shadow magic, not fel, and in some instances actually utilize the Void to fight. Tichondrius does this against us in Nighthold with his Echoes of the Void ability. They come from a now broken world in the vast expanses of the Twisting Nether called Nathreza. This world was allegedly destroyed by Illidan Stormrage when he collapsed the portal that he left behind after visiting Nathreza to obtain the Seal of Argus, which revealed to Illidan the location of Argus. That's actually from the Illidan novel. However, years later, when the forces of Azeroth attacked Argus, as we're doing right now, Portal Keeper Hazabel, a current boss in the game, as we've seen, opens portals to various Legion-dominated worlds, including Nathreza, implying that part of it survived. probably in a manner akin to Outland. Hazabel describes Nethreza as once a world of magic and knowledge, now a twisted landscape from which none can escape. We don't know exactly what this means, but it can't be good news for the Dreadlords or the Legion. While they are powerful foes on the battlefield, they prefer to turn nations against each other through manipulation and guile. We've seen this a lot. The Nathrezim are merciless villains who feed upon the energies of mortal creatures. All mortal creatures, they feed upon energy, fear, hatred. They utilize terror and subterfuge, often turning brother against brother as whole worlds fall apart before their dark influence. They are known to be extremely manipulative and masters of trickery. They sometimes refer to themselves as Thalkitun in their language, meaning the unseen guests. You are a pawn of forces unseen. Their demonic magics can drain the life of their victims, and they have been reported to devour the souls of their slain victims. That's very strange. They can amass a swarm of flying carrion insects and have been known to put their enemies to sleep. Very interesting, considering the old gods are always talking about sleep. They control insects like the Klaxi, the Karaji. But we'll move on from that. Masters of trickery, deceit, and guile, they take pride in the fiendish destruction they have wrought on Azeroth. They take pride in it. The Nathrezim have a war-centered culture, but with an emphasis on codes of conduct, though. It is forbidden for one of the Nathrezim to kill another, a law broken twice by Varimathras. And I'll finish with the last couple facts on them, because we need to move to the big picture. Because the Nathrezim were created within the Twisting Nether, they may be a direct product of primarily Void and Shadow energy. This could mean that they have a direct alignment with the Void and worship it accordingly. Knowing this opens the opportunity for more deception and corruption from the Nathrezim. And there's some things that you need to know about the Nathrezim. I don't know if you are aware. The Lich King's armor, sword, the helmet of command, and Ner'zhul's binding of his soul to the helmet were all done, part of which by Kil'jaeden, but mostly forged. All of it was forged by the Nathrezim. Apocalypse, the unholy Death Knight artifact, is actually forged by Nathrezim as well, which brings with it violence, plagues, and death. So it's something that they created. And then I'm going to end on the Dreadlord thing with this. Here's a list of relevant Dreadlords, most of which we saw in the Broken Shores Gul'dan summon them for the climax. There are other Dreadlords, some of which are still alive. However, I'm going to be focusing on really important ones for us. Tichondrius we defeated within the Nighthold, but we didn't defeat him in the Nether, so like all demons, he will come back. Mephistroth we also defeated in Cathedral, I believe. He will come back. He was not killed in the Void. Dentalianax was killed in Blackrook Hold. He will come back. He was not defeated in the Nether. Maleficus was killed. He's a world boss. You can fight him on the Broken Shore. He technically could come back, but I don't think we should worry too much about him. Catherine Atir, his soul is locked within the Violet Citadel, so he's probably never coming back. Balnazar is dead. In Varimathras, since we're killing him in Antorus, which is in the, I believe, currently is in the Twisting Nether, he would die permanently. Varimathras would finally die, which is why he says death claims us all. But then we have some that we don't know where they are. We don't know where Mal'Ganis is, and Mal'Ganis is a really important Dreadlord, if you're not aware. Mal'Ganis is the one that lured Arthas to Northrend to end up turning him into the Lich King. So Mal'Ganis is a sneaky sucker. We then have Anatheron, who is also another very important Dreadlord. And then we have Anastronath. Where could they be? Who knows? What are they doing? Who knows? They disguise themselves very well, as they were almost able to deceive Khadgar. However, there's something that we need to talk about that I know a lot of people aren't familiar with. And what you're looking at here is from the Chronicle, so official WoW lore. And I'm about to throw the Chronicle out the window, and I know that some of you are not going to like me hearing that, but you gotta hear me out. You gotta listen to this. In this map, it's basically a map of the different forces in the universe within the game. So you have light, you have disorder, death, shadow, order, and life. Through life, we have things like nature, the wild gods, the Emerald Dream, makes sense, water and spirit. Through light we have light, holy, the Naru. Disorder we have fell, the burning legion, Sargeras. Death we have necromantic, undead. Decay. Order we have arcane, the Titans. Earth and water. And then through the shadow, mysteriously, the shadow is the only one with 4 forces acting upon it. Shadow, void, the void lords, and the old gods. However, I want to propose to you an idea that the old gods do not belong on the void tier. I know this will sound nuts, but you have to hear me out. When you think of what the old gods are, remember I posed this question to you before. When you think of what they are, what they embody, what is it? The void? I would wager that they embody death. Yogg-Saron says himself, bow down before the god of death. Eternal suffering awaits. Look upon the true face of death and know that your end comes soon. Let's listen to Yasharaj. You can never leave this place. There is no way home. You will die when you leave this place. There is nothing left of your world. All of your friends are dead. You cannot succeed. Your cause is hopeless. Let's talk about Cthulhu. Death is close. You are already dead. You will die. You are weak. Your heart will explode. And then let's think about how Xal'atath talks. Xal'atath is a being of the void. It took many ages to make my return to the surface after the sundering. The Naga can be so possessive of artifacts. Xal'atath is a being of the void. She sounds incredibly intelligent. She is a liar, but she doesn't speak that cryptically. This land has seen so much upheaval, the cataclysm, the sundering, the scouring. You really have no idea. What if I were to tell you that the old gods belong on the tree for death and not the void? But death is very related to the void, as is the arcane and the Titans. Ironically, the Burning Legion fell in disorder seems to be more closely aligned with holy and light. However, regardless of what we consider to be good or bad in the world of Warcraft, we know and we've learned recently that the light seems to have its own motives through Zera. We learned that. However, there's a couple images on this that we have to look at, because we have some big questions in the Warcraft universe. I want you, before we start talking about light and shadow as forces, you have to understand what they are. Think of them as light and darkness, matter and antimatter. So light and shadow, while they might have motive, they cannot exist without one another. They also cannot coexist at the same time. It's stated in Chronicle that the reason that the old gods were created is because the Void Lords were envious of the Titans going around and shaping worlds. They were envious of them, and so they created these beings that they would use to infect worlds and bring about their coming. No, that doesn't make sense. The void is pure existence, or beings of non-existence. The void is pure negative energy, consumption. That's all the void does. The old gods are different. The old gods infect, they spread, they live, they thrive. They are beings of flesh. But you can't just take over and decay beings of earth like the earthen created by the Titans to take over the world. So what do? You create a curse of flesh, make them into beings of flesh. This is not something that the shadow is doing. This is not something that the void is doing. How can the void, something that literally cannot manifest in our universe, very well anyway, without a source of power, how does the void create beings of flesh, first of all? And then how does it fling them into our universe in the manner that's described in the Chronicle? How does that work? That doesn't make sense to me, but we need to look at some pictures. What is this right here? This sun thing that is used to describe holy. We see the Naru, we see holy, and it's been suggested by Khadgar that the Naru were actually a product of creation from Elune. Well, to me, this looks very similar to Elune. In fact, it looks exactly like Elune. This sun thing here with the tendrils coming out of it, this is Elune. However, Elune has a bind with Spirit through Malorn to create Cenarius, which allows us access into the Emerald Dream, which would make sense. We don't really know what Elune is, but we know that she's been there for a long time. Xal'atath, however, refers to her as an upstart goddess. So think about this. Void Lords are like gods of the void, and Elune is like a god of the light. And Elune, maybe just like the void, beings of that power may have trouble manifesting in our universe. Maybe that's why we don't see Elune as an actual sentient body. It seems to be more of a being in the sky that acts and plays God. What if I told you that by mating with Malorn, Elune used the Emerald Dream to come into the reality of Azeroth? And what is on the opposite side of life, nature, and the wild gods? Death, necromance, and where I suspect should be the old gods that go here. Now, the old gods may have seen as well, hey, we can see that Elune used Malorn in the dream to come through into reality. Now, the old gods don't have to do that, because the old gods actually already exist within our reality. They might be imprisoned, but we've seen them infect the Emerald Dream several times. But why? They never really infected it to the point that they did in Shaladrisil, where they were able to infect the entirety of the Rift of Eln and plant a void remnant. One thing I also want you to ask yourself, have you ever actually seen, in the history of the game, have you ever seen something that was infected with old god shit actually turn into something from the void? Have you ever seen it happen? Ever. The only instance where we ever see it is the remnant of the void that was left in the Rift of Eln that we see Ysera walking back and forth to at the end of Emerald Nightmare. This is going to sound crazy, but just as the wild gods in nature sometimes seem to act upon, through Elune, the ways of the light, what if the shadow made a deal with the old gods and said, if you can infect this world soul with a remnant of us, bring us through the coming of the void into your realm, we will allow you to take this world. You can have it back. So what do the old gods do? They orchestrate a plan to imprison the Titans so that they cannot be slain any further. They plant the remnant of the void within the Emerald Dream to bring about the void through our reality. However, I would think more so it's done through the Shadowlands, which could be a connection to... The Emerald Dream could technically be connected to the Shadowlands through the Rift of Eln. That is a possibility. We don't exactly know what's in the Rift of Eln way down there. But there's one more big piece of supporting evidence that we have to talk about. And that is this picture right here. What is this? The shadow, the void. Let me zoom in really close so you can see what I'm talking about. These are hands right here. Very demonic looking hands, to be quite honest with you. Almost reminiscent of a Nathrezim. Very reminiscent of a Nathrezim hand, in fact. Identical. And there seems to be this world here with two moons. The white lady and the pale lady, the white lady and the blue lady, whatever you want to call them. Elune, and then the small one. And when they're flinging these things at the world, it seems like. They're shooting this magic at the world. And to me, they look like these large circle beings with, there's almost like these weird little tendrils coming off them. And they are definitely being shot towards this planetary body that I suspect is Azeroth. Here is the theory. I think that the Nathrezim joined the Legion in order to keep tabs on Sargeras, who was trying to destroy Azeroth. But the Dreadlords don't want that if they work on behalf of the Void. In fact, they want it so opposite that they could actually collect an entire archive of everything that the Burning Legion has ever done, which they did on Nathreza, by the way. Everything that they ever did, the Nathrezim were documenting, keeping very close tabs on. Lothraxion foreshadows to us that not all demons have given up, but why, unless they had their own different motives? Bolvar has been acting very strangely lately, and the Nathrezim having a hand in the creation of the Lich King makes me wonder if they've been up to something. If Bolvar is actually serving a higher master and isn't even aware of it. I wager that the Nathrezim are actually a group of void-worshipping demons born from majority void when void and light clashed to create the Twisting Nether. And they have actually... They've either sent the old gods to the planet in order to infect it, or the old gods were already there, which makes more sense to me because the Titans came upon this world as the old gods were there. And the Dreadlords have made a deal with the old gods to help them bring the Void Lords in. I think it should go Shadow, Void Lords, Dreadlords. And then it should go Undead, Necromantic, Old Gods. I know it's crazy. I know it's tinfoil hatty. But we have to go even a step further. You can leave the theory there, and we can pretend that the Dreadlords have been behind a lot of this, and that's great. I like the theory, because I came up with it. But it could go even deeper. So we could leave it there, or we could take it to another level. What if I told you that the Titans are not the perfect beings that we thought they were? The Titans are certainly more aligned with the Void Lords, as is death, as the old gods are. They're mysteries of the arcane that we simply don't understand, but the Fel is pretty straightforward. Fel is chaotic energy. It's pretty straightforward. Sargeras was going to use this to cleanse the world of whatever was inside. Now, given that Sargeras is aligned more with the Holy, we would see him being a direct enemy of the Titans, something aligned more with the Shadow. What if I told you that the Titans were actually going around and trying to build, this sounds ridiculous, but like a super world soul? What if that was their goal? What if the Titans were going around testing on planets, trying to create this world soul, and unfortunately, the old gods, which we don't even know how many of there are at this point, maybe the old gods are being flung at these planets by Dreadlords. Maybe they're a creation of Dreadlords. Maybe the Dreadlords created it, or they just merged with it in some way, the same way that Elune merged with life and nature through Malorn. However it would work. What if the Titans were trying to make a world soul because they wanted the same thing that the old gods do? What if the old gods have a deal with the Void and can have a fraction of their power when the Void comes through? Let's pretend that that's what Xalatath is, a gift from the Void to show the old gods really what is capable, what the Void is capable of. The old gods go, okay, we're all about death. This thing's pretty good about bringing upon death. We want more of that. Let's work on behalf of the Void Lords to bring them in. But I still think that the Void Lords and the old gods are separate. So what if the Titans lied to us? We live on a planet that is set up and built basically by the Titans. And everything that we have known to be true is things that they have left behind, breadcrumb trails. Yeah, I really just said that. The aspects, those types of things. Things that we naturally would trust as they've always been there, but they are all creations of the Titans, the Keepers, the dragon aspects, all of it. But Odin foresaw, he said he didn't think it was a good idea to create the dragon aspects, and he was right, because it led to the old gods corrupting the dragonflights and getting out. Now, this is stretching it, but what if the old gods, or what if the Titans rather, were actually ruining these worlds themselves? What if they were actually accidentally infecting them, trying to create this super Titan world soul to bring through the Void Lords? Because we know Azeroth is different. It's more powerful than any other Titan we've ever known about. And what if Sargeras, defender of the Pantheon, was the one who said no? The one who said, this is wrong. I have seen what this creates. We cannot do that. The only one to stand against the Pantheon for the horrific things that they had been doing. We know that the Titans tested with the old gods. Uldir, Halls of Control, the raid that we're going to, has a creature in it by the name of Gahun, which was apparently a creation made from Titan engineering. They were testing with old gods and accidentally created it, locked it up. Think about it this way. What if the Titans were going across the world building these worlds? We see from the Vindicar that there's a lot of old god infested worlds, but they're not consumed by the void yet. What if the Dreadlords have been watching the void, or had been watching the Pantheon for a while, and they said, you know what, they tried on this world, there was nothing there. Let's go there and see if we can infect it and see if we can get anything. That's why these worlds are corrupted. They're full of the old gods, but they haven't turned into anything from the void yet. They haven't actually turned into void beings. Star Augur has seen the fate. He's seen a lot, but he doesn't necessarily fully understand it, as I don't think anyone really does. What if Sargeras found a world where the Void Lords had been successful, and that is what terrified Sargeras into saying, no, 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 this has to stop. These things will consume and destroy everything. And the Pantheon said, no, this is our plan. Sargeras strikes them down, but they escape narrowly. And then from the shadows, Sargeras has been trying to resurrect them, in my opinion, to try to destroy Azeroth, to destroy the World Soul. Because if the World Soul is left to thrive, and is left to be infected by the void, Sargeras knows what will come. But the old gods aren't the ones that infect the world soul. The old gods aren't the one that do it. The old gods just get the void inside. Because the world soul is a conduit of energy, one immensely powerful that could be used to bring about the coming of the Void Lords. Now, one thing that someone brought up to me as an argument against this was, what about Dementius? What about Dementius? Koresh was devoured by Dementius, and we have no information. In fact, it's actually heavily debated amongst remaining ethereals on how exactly Dementius came into their reality. We just so happen to have someone called Locust Walker, who is very skilled and mastered in the void, and is now using one of our leaders as a conduit for void energy. We see that Illyria has quite a reaction to the Sunwell when she visits it. We just learned this in new data mined broadcast text. And Illyria describes how she feels that she has died multiple times before. She feels like she has already died twice. What if the third death of Illyria brings about the coming of the void? But more so this, Illyria talks about how it seems to be the destiny of the Windrunners. Death seems to be the end game. That's where they all go. What if the third death, Sylvanas has died already, Varisa is still quite alive, and Illyria is still quite alive. What if Varisa dies at the events of Teldrassil, the second death, and then Illyria later on dies, which would be the third death of Lady Windrunner? Not just Lady Illyria Windrunner or Lady Sylvanas Windrunner, but just Lady Windrunner. Think about that. If Illyria is the conduit for the void to enter our reality, which it seems like that's what Locust Walker is trying to set up, maybe Locust Walker was the one that brought about the coming of Dementius, and that explains why he is so adept to the void. Maybe he knows it, because Locust Walker had something to do with it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and chill out there with the speculation, but I leave you with this note. We have already explored the Burning Legion, the Fell Disorder, the Naru Holy, the Light, the Wild Gods, Nature, Life, the Titans, the Arcane, and Order. We have explored the Void Lords, the Shadow in the Void. But there is one that we have yet to really explore, and that is Decay, Undead, Necromance, and Death. We happen to be dealing with Bwonsamdi in this upcoming expansion. There's also a heavy plot line with Sylvanas, who is undead. And I have a strange feeling that within the halls of Uldir, we may have some information exposed to us that we were not supposed to know. Now, the big glaring issue with this is that the Chronicle describes all of this as something different. Chronicle is not finished yet, though, and I know that this is crazy, but what if Chronicle is a book written in the eyes of the Titans? What if the Titans actually created Chronicle, and it's written in a way that makes the Void and all of this look like evil? It's evil. Because the Titans, for whatever reason, whatever the reason, let's say that it's set up that way. Or it's meant to look that way because the Titans were actually working on their own behalf. See, if the Titans had an evil plot, not necessarily evil, but a plot to build this world soul on behalf of the Void, they would likely cover it up so that we wouldn't know. It's crazy. I know, but I don't think anyone's ever looked at this before. We don't know what's going on with the Nathrazim. We don't know what Holy is, but to me it sure as fuck seems like a loon. It seems like the old gods are a completely separate entity from the Void. They don't seem to have the same motives. In fact, the old gods used to fight each other. If the old gods were sent out to infect worlds, why would they have not just worked together to completely infect the world and be done with it? Serve the Void and get it over with. Don't fight each other. It doesn't make any sense. Get the job done and that's it. I think there's more to it. Definitely think there is. But with that, I'm going to end the tinfoil hatting. I'm going to cut it here. 33 minutes nearly. I appreciate and love you guys very much. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed my speculation, make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to my channel if you feel that I've earned it. Make sure you check out my Twitter and my Twitch page, which I'll have links to both down in the description below, and check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me monthly. But like I said, tinfoil hat's been on for too long. I might take a little bit of a break after this and just chill out. But there is certainly a possibility that the Nathrazim have a hand in the events of Undercity. They have a hand in the burning of Teldrassil, in the framing of Sylvanas. And if it is true that they are trying to infect the Dream in order to bring about the coming of the Void, the best way to keep us from stopping that is to cut our ties to the Dream by burning down world trees and killing beings like Malfurion. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. Till next time, I'll see ya. Peace.